You know, when you sent in your request to deep dive into the Tata Group,
Hmm.
I have to admit I was fascinated.
Hmm.
It's like you said, their name. It's
Yeah.
everywhere in India.
Yeah.
Cars,
Right.
airlines,
Yeah.
hotels, even basic things like tea and salt.
Absolutely.
But you're not just interested in what they make, are you?
No.
It's the how behind their 200-year success story. Well,
Absolutely.
yeah,
It's one thing to build a business empire.
right.
It's quite another to have it thrive for 2 centuries.
Uh-huh.
It makes you wonder what's in the water over at Tata.
Right. And Dhruv Rathi wasn't kidding about the sheer scale of this company, over 100 companies.
Right.
I mean, their market cap being bigger than Pakistan's GDP, like Vivek Bindra said,
Yeah.
that's almost impossible to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Where do we even begin with something like that?
Well, I think it's important to remember that Tata's journey isn't just some isolated business case study.
Okay.
It's deeply intertwined with India's own story over the last 2 centuries. Each generation of Tata leadership had to navigate a completely different India.
Okay, so it's bigger than just business decisions. It's like they're riding the waves of history along with the entire country.
Exactly. You have Nusarwanji Tata starting out with cotton trading as India enters its colonial period.
Hmm.
Then there's Jamsetji, considered the group's founder, dealing with rapid industrialization under British rule.
Right.
Jump ahead, you've got J.R.D. Tata navigating the complexities of a newly independent socialist India.
Right.
And finally, Ratan Tata, ushering them into a globalized market.
Yeah.
Each leader faced unique challenges, which makes their consistent success even more remarkable, wouldn't you say?
It really does. Speaking of the different leaders, there's that story from Dhruv Rathi's video about Jamsetji and the workers at his Nagpur cotton mill that I
Yeah.
found really interesting.
Yeah.
Apparently, instead of firing a group of workers who weren't being productive, he gave them all sorts of benefits. Pensions, insurance, even family days
Wow.
in the 1870s.
Yeah.
I mean, who does that?
It's a great anecdote.
Right.
And it reveals something essential about Tata. Their approach to business goes beyond just the bottom line.
Okay.
Social upliftment has been baked into their philosophy from the very beginning.
Hmm.
They were pioneers in so many ways.
So it's more than just philanthropy. It's like this core value that influenced their decisions from day one.
Precisely. Think about the institutions they've supported. The Indian Institute of Science, for example,
Mm.
or their contributions to healthcare and disaster relief. They weren't just generating wealth, they were actively trying to improve the lives of Indians. This wasn't always the norm, especially in the late 19th and early 20th centuries.
And that commitment to social good continues even today, right? I mean,
Mhm.
even with something as modern as Ratan Tata's mission to create an ultra-affordable car, the Nano.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He wanted to provide affordable mobility to millions of Indians.
Right.
Sure, the marketing of the Nano might be debated,
Okay.
but the intention behind it speaks volumes about this deeply rooted Tata ethos, don't you think?
It really does. It's almost paradoxical, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
They have this incredible impact on India, yet they don't seem to seek the limelight
Mm.
in the same way that other global giants do.
Yeah.
I mean, take their branding, for example.
Now you've hit upon one of the most fascinating aspects of the Tata Group.
Okay, so we're talking about Tata's branding, or should I say the lack thereof.
Right.
Dhruv Rathi really highlighted this in his video.
Yeah.
How many companies with this level of influence do you know that practically avoid putting their name on things?
It's a good question.
Yeah.
And it gets to the heart of what makes Tata so unique.
Mm.
Think about it. The Indian Institute of Science, the Empress Miltaj Hotels,
Right.
even the city of Jamshedpur itself,
Wow.
all Tata initiatives.
Yeah.
And yet the name is almost incidental.
It's like they're deliberately trying to be discreet,
Yeah.
which I guess makes them stand out even more in today's world of in-your-face branding, right?
Precisely. It's counterintuitive, but it works.
Yeah.
It reinforces this idea of them as a company that's not driven by ego or the need for constant recognition.
Right.
They let their actions speak for themselves.
It's a powerful statement, actually.
Yes.
Like they're saying, we're not here for the applause, we're here for the long haul.
Right.
Which, let's be honest, is exactly what they've proven over the last 2 centuries.
Yeah, their longevity is definitely a testament to that long-term vision.
Yeah.
But to really understand Tata, we need to talk about the man who's become synonymous with the brand in recent decades, Ratan Tata.
Yes. Vivek Bindra's video was practically an ode to him.
Right.
He comes across as this fascinating mix of humility and steely determination.
He does.
Like, did you hear about the time he chose to fix a flat tire himself? instead of acting all high and mighty?
Yeah, yeah.
Or his response after the 26/11 attacks on the Taj Hotel?
Those anecdotes really capture the essence of his leadership style, don't they?
Yeah.
It would have been easy for someone in his position to simply write a check after the attacks. Instead, he met with the staff, personally offered continued employment for families who had lost loved ones, even arranged for psychological support.
It's like he understood that true leadership isn't just about making business decisions. It's about showing up for people when it matters most.
Absolutely.
Right.
And let's not forget the way he handled the situation when Pakistani firms bid for the Taj's reconstruction. I may be a businessman, he reportedly said, but I'm not shameless.
Wow.
That's not just business acumen, that's taking a moral stand.
Okay, so he's clearly a man of principle.
Yeah.
But what about his impact on Tata as a business?
Wow.
How did his leadership shape their strategy?
Well, one of his most significant moves was consolidating Tata Sons ownership in various subsidiaries during the liberalization of the Indian economy in the 1990s.
To prevent foreign takeovers, right?
Right.
That sounds like a pretty critical decision at such a pivotal moment for India.
It absolutely was.
Yeah.
JRD Tata, his predecessor, had to dilute Tata Sons' ownership to comply with socialist regulations.
Right.
But Ratan Tata understood that in a globalized market, maintaining control was crucial to protect the group from hostile takeovers.
And it clearly worked.
Yeah,
Not only did they weather those turbulent economic times, but they went on to acquire major international players like Tetley Tea and Corus Steel.
that's right.
I even read that the workers at Jaguar Land Rover wanted Tata to buy them.
Yeah.
What does that tell you about the kind of reputation they built under Ratan Tata's leadership?
It speaks volumes. He had this incredible ability to balance a deep respect for Tata's legacy and values with the boldness to make big moves and secure their future.
So it's tradition and innovation all in one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Take the Tata Nano, for example.
Okay.
Here's a company known for luxury cars and hotels, and they pour their resources into creating the world's cheapest car.
Right.
It was ambitious, maybe even a little bit radical for some people.
Sure, I mean, marketing might have had its issues.
But the point is, they weren't afraid to challenge the status quo. They saw a need, and they tried to address it in a way that was innovative, even disruptive.
Yeah.
And you see that same spirit in their ventures into renewable energy, their investments in cutting-edge technologies.
All while maintaining that surprisingly low-key branding we talked about earlier.
Right.
It's like they let their actions make the noise for them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it begs the question, is Tata's understated approach a deliberate strategy, or is it simply an extension of their values?
It's a fascinating thought, isn't it? Maybe it's a bit of both.
Perhaps.
But, for a company that's deeply rooted in doing good and clearly has a strong moral compass, there's always another side to this story.
You're absolutely right. No company with a history as long and as complex as Tata's is without its share of controversies.
Okay, so we've talked about Tata's incredible legacy, their unique approach to business, even their almost paradoxical branding. But you mentioned there's another side to this story, a more complex one. What kind of controversies are we talking about here?
Well, like any corporation, especially one so deeply woven into the fabric of a nation, Tata hasn't been immune to criticism. Some of it stems from the inherent challenges of operating on such a massive scale, especially in a rapidly developing country like India.
So are we talking about the growing pains of industrialization?
Yeah,
I mean, land acquisition, environmental concerns, those sorts of things.
that's part of it. There have been instances where Tata's industrial projects have been met with resistance from local communities, often over displacement concerns. And environmental groups have raised questions about the ecological impact of some of their operations.
It makes sense. These are complex issues with no easy answers. How has Tata addressed these criticisms?
Well, it's an ongoing process, and it's something they're constantly navigating. Transparency and engagement seem to be key. In some cases, they've implemented resettlement programs and invested in environmental initiatives to mitigate the negative impacts.
So it's a constant balancing act, trying to drive progress while being mindful of the social and environmental consequences. It makes you wonder, though, how does a company with such a strong moral compass, a company that prides itself on social good, reconcile those values with the inevitable complexities of doing business in the 21st century?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think there's a single answer. But what's important is that they're engaging with these issues. They're having these conversations. They're not shying away from their responsibility.
Which, when you think about it, is maybe another aspect of their long-term vision. They're not just trying to weather the storm, they're trying to evolve with the times.
Exactly. And that brings us back to your original question. What is the secret to Tata's enduring success? It's not about avoiding challenges, it's about how you face them.
We've covered a lot of ground here. Their adaptability, their commitment to social good, their almost paradoxical approach to branding, and of course the complexities that come with their legacy. If you had to distill it down to one key takeaway, what do you think it would be?
I think it's their deep understanding of India. They're not just operating in India, they're a part of its very fabric. They understand the complexities, the aspirations, the challenges.
So it's more than just understanding a market. It's about being intertwined with the story of a nation.
Precisely. And that connection, that shared journey, is perhaps the most powerful explanation for their enduring success.
Wow. You know, when we started this deep dive, I was fascinated by Tata. Now I'm even more intrigued. They're a company that defies easy categorization, a company full of paradoxes, a company that reflects both the promise and the complexities of India itself.
And that, I think, is what makes them so endlessly fascinating. They're a constant reminder that business at its core is about more than just profits. It's about understanding people, navigating change, and ultimately leaving the world a better place than you found it.
What an incredible story. I have a feeling our listener has a lot to think about after this deep dive. It's clear that Tata's story is far from over. Who knows what the next chapter will hold? Until then, happy diving.